Hi, Southwoods Algebra fans. Mrs. Lindsay back again with just one more thought. I was thinking maybe your calculator might help you with some of the problems you're going to see on the quiz on Tuesday. So I decided to make a video with my calculator and show you how I might approach some of the problems a little differently if I had a calculator to help me. So let me go away for a minute and we'll talk about the first problem. So we can use the calculator to find this equation. If I want to write the equation for the sequence 11, 9, 7, etc., and that's what those three dots mean, I might be able to do this using algebra and a mini table, or I might be able to let the calculator help me. And then later, when I do get that equation, I can use the calculator to find the 18th term. Let's see how. Well, the first thing I want to do is talk about the sequence or the numbers, the term numbers in each of these sequences. So 11, 9, and 7 all have term numbers. So I think I'll number them. One, 2, and 3. So term number 1 is 11. Term number 2 is 9. And term number 3 is 7. Those will act as my ordered pairs for my mini table. So let's mini table it. If I try making the mini table, there it is, 1, 11, 2, 9, 3, 7. Now, if you remember, the calculator can actually write an equation for you, although it's not going to be in the explicit arithmetic sequence form that we learned just recently, but it will be in linear function form, slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And that'll help us, especially if we're not told what type of form to write the equation in, or sometimes they ask for it anyway in linear function form. And in any case, once I find the equation, I certainly can find the 18th term. So the calculator might be good enough for a problem like this. So let's get that calculator out and go right to the Stat button. And if you hit Enter, you're going to get, for Edit, you're going to get lists that you can write your numbers in. So X, which is the place number, the 1, 2, and 3, is going to go in list 1, and Y, which is the term numbers that you've been given, is going to be 11, 9, and 7. Once you have that, you can go to your Stat again, and then scroll to the right to Calc, and then scroll down to number 4, which is the linear regression, or the part of the calculator that's going to give you the y equals mx plus b. So if you hit Enter there, you'll see it'll give you this menu that tells you what lists you're in. You're in lists 1 and 2, that's great. And if you scroll down to Calculate and hit Enter there it is, your slope and your y-intercept. Now again, as you remember, this A is actually the slope, and we usually call it M, but your calculator calls it A. But if you can deal with that, that's the slope, and the B is obviously the y-intercept, as we know and love. You've got everything you need. You've got everything you need to write that equation. Y equals mx plus b. So y equals negative 2x plus 13. So there's your equation. And if it's a multiple choice exam, you might see it in a slightly different form. A sub n equals negative 2n plus 13. But there again, you have your slope is -2 and your y-intercept of 13. It's the same equation, slightly different look. Don't get confused. That'll be the answer to the equation for that sequence if they give it to you in slope-intercept form. So that would be great. Then if they ask you to find the 18th term, you know you can always sub 18 in for n, or you can kind of get your calculator to do it for you by opening up the y equals and typing the equation into y1. Now remember, when you use the x, don't use an n, don't use any of the letters, don't use the alpha, use the x that is next to the alpha button and in between the alpha button and the stat, right there. So make sure that you're using that x. Okay, and hopefully most of you know that already. When you want to get the table, when you want to generate the table, you go to the second and graph, the second table button, as you remember, and then scroll all the way down until you see x is 18. And then look for the y term next to the 18. The y term is -23. The 18th term is -23. And you've just written your equation in slope-intercept form, and you found the 18th term. Now, if they ask for the equation in arithmetic sequence explicit form, then it would look slightly different. But again, it would still have the same slope. But what you would have to do is look for the first term instead of the y-intercept. The first term would be a little bit different. It would be 11. If you remember, the y-intercept was backed up 1. But I think the calculator will still help you. Let's use the calculator to find out how many terms are in a sequence. This can be kind of tricky. And for a problem like this, the calculator can be very, very helpful. So in this particular problem, I have a sequence, an arithmetic sequence, 3, 6, 9, and then I have these 3 dots, which means go on, keep counting. I'm getting tired. I'm not going to write them down anymore. And then I'm going to end at 42. Well, that's not very helpful because we don't know how many terms it's going to take to get to 42. So here's where your calculator can be a big help. Again, number your terms, 1, 2, 3. And this number here, this term in the future term 42, we're just going to give it a term number called n. So n is the term number when you don't know exactly what it is. That's like the variable we use. It's similar to the x. We use it, it's the independent variable, so it's used in the same exact way as x is used. So again, we're going to make a mini table, and here it is. But we're only going to use the terms that we know. So we know the 1, 3. We know the 2, 6. We know the 3, 9. I'm not going to write the n in the 42 because that's not really going to help me very much. So the next thing I'm going to do is get out my calculator, go to Stat Edit, hit Enter, and hopefully my lists are cleared. By the way, if you don't remember how to clear the lists, scroll all the way up until the list is highlighted. So L1 or L2 would be highlighted, hit Clear, and then hit the down arrow, and your list should be gone. But now we're going to type in this list, 1, 2, 3 in list 1, and 3, 6, 9 in list 2. If we go to Stat again, scroll to the right, Calc, scroll down to number 4 with the linear regression or the linear function formula, we're going to end up, with that little menu that said list 1, list 2, and then calculate. Go down to calculate, and there you have it. You have your slope, which again is a. It's not m, but it's a. And your y-intercept, which happens to be, in this case, 0. Okay, so how is this going to help me? Well, the first thing is now at least we know the equation. The equation is y equals 3x plus 0. Of course, you don't have to write the plus 0. And I'm not going to write it in the calculator because it's a waste of space. Then I'm going to open my y equals, and I'm going to type in my y1, 3x. Again, use the x that's between the alpha button and the stat button. Once you do that, go to Second Graph, those two buttons, and scroll down till you see where the y is 42. Because remember, we're trying to get to a y, or to a dependent variable, or an output of 42. So what's next to the 42? Well, since the x is 14, then we know there are 14 terms in this sequence. So I hope the little calculator lesson will help you a little bit on your quiz on Tuesday. Of course, if you're in love with algebra, as I am, you can always just use the algebra. You don't really need the calculator, but I think some of you are going to like to have it as a backup. It's a good method. So now there's some practice problems that I'm going to attach for you, and you can always practice with these problems. And there are answers at the end of the practice problems in the document that's attached. Make a copy for yourself. You can either do it on Kami, you can print it, do it on paper, or you can just write it on scrap paper. It's up to you. You don't need to submit it. But I would do as much practice as possible, and these 10 problems are very much like what the test is like. Remember, the test is multiple choice, so the answers in the multiple choice can help you also. But don't be fooled. Sometimes your equations are going to be in linear function form, y equals mx plus b, and sometimes they're going to be in arithmetic sequential form, explicit form, which is a sub n equals a sub 1 plus parentheses n minus 1 times d. The good thing about that is that will be right at the top of your paper, so that you'll be able to use that for reference. Y equals mx plus b is something you just need to know. Okay, that's all for now. Good luck, have a great rest of the weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.